Hello and welcome to this webinar, Digital Archiving of Cultural Heritage, the Involvement of Older People and Intergenerational Approaches. You're all very welcome indeed to join us today. My name is Gillian Robinson and I work with the Place EE project here at Ulster University. Place EE is platforms for ageing, community engagement, exchange and enterprise. And the project has been funded by the Northern Peripheries and Arctic region of the European Union. We have people joining us today from a range of places, and you're all very, very welcome. Please feel free to write in the chat box, say who you are and what your interest is in this webinar. We have a very special welcome to our partners who are ranged across different parts of Europe, in Iceland, Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, and in Sweden. And thank you all very much for taking part and for sharing in this webinar today. In all, almost 500 people took part in this project, and one of the outputs was this fascinating transnational cultural heritage archive that we're going to use as the basis for our webinar today. So the running order is that the project director, Professor Jerry Levy, who's director of the Bamford Centre here at Ulster University, will first say a little bit about the aims of the project and the development of the archive. Then we're delighted that 3 participants from the project can take part and share a little bit about their experience, and we'll introduce them as we go through. And one of our community engagement officers from Sweden will also say a few words. They'll be followed by our 2 guest speakers, Vicki Titterington from Linking Generations and Lynsey Gillespie from Making the Future project at the Public Records Office of Northern Ireland. We'll then have an opportunity for some questions which can be sent in via the chat box and directed to whoever you want to ask the question to. And then Roger O'Sullivan from the Institute of Public Health, who has been associated with the project since the beginning, and supporting the project, will have a few concluding comments before Professor Levy will close the seminar. So with that, I'm going to pass over to Professor Jerry Levy.
Okay, just to say thanks, Gillian, and thanks for all your efforts in putting this together. And thanks to all our people on the Place EE team, past and present, who put in a huge effort to make it all happen. And just to say thanks to all the people who have tuned in and to our other panelists. I guess I could start with saying that a webinar wouldn't be our first preference to come together to talk about Place EE and intergenerational exchange programs. But I guess it makes a pretty strong statement about how our world's been massively turned upside down in recent months, and how much we have come to depend on digital technology for communication in our working and our personal lives as well. As Gillian said, Place EE is a 3-year project, very generously funded by the NPA, the Northern Periphery and Arctic Association, one of the EU funding streams. I suppose it's always wise to start with some of the contextual issues, the kinds of problems and challenges that we were hoping to address. But primarily, Place EE was always about meeting the needs of older people living in rural and isolated parts of the northern periphery of Europe. And the broader challenges of all such communities, regardless of whether it's a small rural population in Iceland or Limerick or even Saskatchewan or Idaho. That is, the lack of economic investment, the outward flow, the outward migration of younger people going to seek their fortunes in cities, the serious problems of limited or no public transport. And that's a problem which is increasing across all of the areas. And the difficulties of installing broadband and internet connection into these areas, primarily, I suppose, because of their remoteness and the expense of doing so. So added to this, of course, is the the limited availability of health and social care services, which of course extremely important to older people, and certainly the levels of comorbidities and disabilities people face as they get older, and the limitations that creates for them. But we know that technology is one potential solution. Getting older people connected and using the internet, allowing them to consult, say, with their GPs or healthcare visitors, for example. I suppose the problem is for many older people, certainly here in Ireland, don't use the internet. They may be afraid to use the internet because of the publicity around scammers and scamming, or simply not wishing to appear inadequate in some way. And lots of older people also have never been given the opportunity to learn internet skills. And so now, I mean, I guess as never before in the time of COVID, many older people remain isolated and lonely, unable to get the services when they need them. And also, of course, just being very disconnected from friends and family at a time when they need them most. So it's a kind of terrible scenario for most of people living in these beautiful environments in Europe or anywhere else. But these are also areas that are very, very rich in cultural heritage. And that was something that we hoped to incorporate into the design of the project. So you can find out much more about the project itself on the website and from the podcast that we've done. But for now, I just want to say that through the community coalitions and working groups with local schools, we connected the older citizens with the younger citizens, who then helped provide them with some guidance on using the internet and being able to get services using Skype, amongst other things. And in turn, the elders were able to put together a wonderful and wide variety of cultural heritage materials on the Place EE archive. And so again, as I said, the archive is now live and online. And I think what will happen now is that our next speakers who were directly involved in developing this material will say something about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Jerry. Yes, we're absolutely delighted that some of the participants in the project can join us. And the first person to join us is Lilah Graham, who is from the Fermanagh and Omagh District Council area. Lilah's been involved in contributing to the archive, and she's just going to say a little bit about her experience of being involved. So I'm hopefully going to unmute Lilah, and if I can, how do I, oh yeah, there we go. Hi Lilah, can you hear us now?
Hello, yes, Gillian, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect, yes, thank you very much. Go ahead.
This is my first time to do this, so it is on the screen, never before. So hello from sunny Fermanagh. My name is Lilah Graham and I live in Ballinamallard, County Fermanagh, Northern Ireland. I am a past participant of the Place EE Genealogy Project, organised by Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, designed for older people like me in the rural areas of Fermanagh and Omagh. My course took place in St John's College in Dromore, County Tyrone. I didn't know what to expect, but all went well. This was the first time I had undertaken a project working alongside teenagers. Colin was my teenage sidekick, and he helped me to gain a better understanding of technology, including lots of new shortcuts. This really helped me and increased my confidence in using technology. All the seniors really enjoyed working with the kids. Age made no difference, and we all shared stories and memories. The younger people were so friendly and well-mannered, and the only thing that added to the experience was a beautiful tea and buns. It was really nice sharing the memories from the past with everyone on the course, and then recording them so they could be included in the Cultural Heritage Archive. I've now also learned through Place EE to use Zoom for the first time. I believe this would benefit all my generation, helping to keep our brains alert and active. I would definitely recommend to all seniors, if offered, to avail of the opportunity to participate in any IT training and online learning. Next Monday, the 5th of October, I will undertake my first Zoom-based online session of genealogy through Place EE. And I would like to thank everyone in the Place EE, from Anna and Oma District Council, Lisa, Frank and Joanne, who have arranged and delivered opportunities for us to work with young people and gain new skills and develop a hobby. I would finally like to thank the funder of the NPA who supported this initiative and give us the opportunity. And a special thanks to Joanne, who has had to put up with me. Hopefully sometime in the future, we might be able to meet other participants from other countries. Thank you all, take care and stay safe.
Thank you so much, Lilah, and I think your contribution is just fantastic in that if this is your first time on Zoom and you have gained some of these skills through our project, it just epitomizes what the project was about, and lovely to hear about the good working relationship you had with the younger people.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that. We're going to move now to our second participant, who is from Iceland. Okay, I think we're okay, Mar. Thank you very much for joining us.
Takk. Heil og sæl, gott fólk. Ég heiti Sveinsson og frá Fjarðabyggð á Íslandi. Ég að verða 87 ára gamall og ekkill. Helstu áhugamál mín eru líkamsrækt, tónlist og sjónvarpsgláp. Uppáhaldssöngkona mín mezzosopranin Lilah Graham. Hún frá Lettlandi. Mig langar að byrja á því að þakka þeim sem að ég hitti á Fáskrúðsfirði kærlega fyrir síðast. Ég þakklátur fyrir að hafa fengið að taka þátt í þessu verkefni því að það hefur haft góð áhrif á mig og félagslífið hérna. En ég bý í einni af 27 íbúðum aldraðra sem allar eru í samtengdum húsum og getum við notið félagsskapar hvors annars ef vill. Eftir að verkefni kláraðist höfum við haldið áfram að hittast einu sinni í viku og þá erum við að lesa ýmislegt menningarlegt efni fyrir hvort annað, til dæmis þróun verkalýðshreyfingar á Íslandi og fleira. Nú ætla ég að byrja að lesa ágrip af sögu Bandaríkjanna fyrir hópinn. Eitt af því sem við gerðum í verkefninu var að búa til uppskriftabók frá ömmum okkar. Það heppnaðist vel. Mér þótti lærdómsríkt og gott að fá ungu kynslóðina til að hjálpa okkur með snjallsíma, tölvur og fleira. Ekki síst þegar maður heppinn með ungmenni, leiðbeinandi minn dásamlegur og við erum góðir vinir í dag. Ég held að unga fólkið sé alltaf að batna og unga fólkið okkar í dag flott. Það ekki hægt að líkja þessu saman við hvernig þetta var í gamla daga. Nú fer ungt fólk í skóla og þar helmingin á ævinni og ef það veit eitthvað þá, ef það veit ekki eitthvað þá, að þá það bara googlað. Ekki minni breyting á gamla fólkinu í gamla daga og gamla fólkinu í dag. Við erum heilsuhraustari og lifum lengur. Í dag eru ótal möguleikar fyrir okkur varðandi afþreyingu og í rauninni óþarfi að láta sér leiðast. Ef maður vill stunda félagslíf, þá það fyrir hendi og ef maður vill stunda líkamsrækt, þá það í næsta húsi. Í gamla daga veiktist fólk bara og dó. Ef við veikjustum í dag, fáum við miklu betri læknisþjónustu og getum lifað lengur með sjúkdóma sem áður drógu fólk til dauða. Á mínum aldri hefur hver sinn djöful að draga. Það enginn svo slæmur að hann get ekki gert eitthvað til að bæta andlega eða líkamlega heilsu sína. Verkefni sem við tókum þátt í til dæmis gott dæmi það og fyrir það vil ég þakka. Takk fyrir mig, lifið heil.
Hello folks, my name is Sveinsson. I'm a widower, I'm turning 87 and I live in Fjarðabyggð, Iceland. My main interests are fitness, music, the mezzo-soprano singer Lilah Graham from Latvia is my favorite, and watching TV. Now, I would like to start with my thanks to those of you I've met for the good times we had when you came to Iceland. I am grateful for my participation in Place EE because it has had a good effect on me and the social life here. I live in a building with 27 apartments for the elderly where we can enjoy each other's company as wanted. After the Place EE workshops came to an end, us elderly participants decided to continue to meet once a week. We read various cultural material for each other, for example, about the development of the trade union movement in Iceland, among other things. I am now beginning to read a summary of American history to the group. Having someone from the younger generation helping us with smart devices and computers was very rewarding for me. I was lucky with my young mentor. I found her very amiable and we became good friends. One of the things we did in the project was to create a cookbook with recipes from our grandmothers. I enjoyed that and the cookbook worked out very well. I think young people have grown better over the years and our young people are great today. I think we can hardly compare the young people today with the young people in the old days. Today, young people go to school and they stay there for half of their life. And if they do not know something after that, then they just Google it. There's also so much difference regarding the old people in the old days and the elderly people today. We are healthier and live longer. In the old days, people got sick and just died. If we get sick today, we will get much better medical care and are able to live longer with diseases that used to kill people. Today, there are countless possibilities for us in terms of entertainment, and in fact, there is no need to get bored. If I want to socialize, I have easy access to people and places, and if I want to exercise, I just go to the gym next door. At my age, everyone has his own demons. But no one can be so poorly that he cannot do anything to improve his mental or physical health. Participating in Place EE, I think, is a good example of how one can improve his social well-being. Thank you all and take care.
Okay, thank you very much, Mara, and to Helga for translating. It's really wonderful to hear you speaking in Icelandic about your experience. It reminds us about the transnational nature of this project and the work that we did. And thank you to Helga for translating. Great to have you involved. Our third speaker, who is Mary Cronin, who's joining us from Limerick.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sure you can hear me okay. You can hear me okay? Greetings from Limerick, and it gives me a great pleasure to represent all the people who took part in this project. At the outset, I would like to thank our program manager, Anne, Gillian and Aisling, for the amount of work they put into making this project such a great success. In early 2019, West Limerick was piloted for this Place EE scheme. And it gives all a great insight into how rural life is and was. The young students from Desmond College, I'm sure, were very apprehensive in meeting older people, as we were. But they took to us like ducks take to water. Some of them did history on our national culture. Some of them did tapestry. Some of them did various different aspects of life in rural Limerick. The young man that I had was a student by the name of Dylan O'Shea. And he knew an awful lot about hurling and football, but he knew nothing about women in athletics in Ireland. So I filled him in on it. And he was really gobsmacked with the fact that Ireland is only a very new country with women in athletics. But he taught me how to use the internet, and over the weeks he showed me how to do Zoom and and now I'm able to do Zoom conference calls. Because of being national OPC chairperson, I have to do Zoom calls maybe every so often, and I am very, very grateful to Dylan for the work he put in. Over the last few months and over the months that program went on, we laughed and we danced. And I'm sure the students themselves will take away what they learned from us. And in years to come, we'll look back on what they learned. And I certainly learned a lot about West Limerick. Seeing that I was from Galway, I knew nothing about the great culture, the set dancing and the slosh and all of this type of thing. So we danced and we sang and we really enjoyed that course. And maybe in finishing, I would like to thank all sincerely everybody that funded this project. To you all who are in all the other countries, I would say thank you. And I wish you well, stay safe, and maybe one day we'll either meet up or we'll have another project where we can again tip our toes in the water and see what's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary, and wonderful to hear about how much you're doing online now, and also lovely to hear about the relationships between young and old in the Limerick workshops. We've seen some videos of the dancing and the laughing, and it's great to hear you talk about it in such warm terms. So thank you very much indeed. I'm going to unpin you now and move to our next speaker, who is Maria Palberg. And Maria is...
Hi.
There we go. Maria is joining us from Sweden. And Maria, do you want me to put up the PowerPoint now, or do you want to speak a minute or two first?
No, you can put it up so that you don't have to look at me so much. I thought I'd make it easier for everyone, so I'll speak in English. I'll skip the Swedish part. But hi, everyone. I'm Maria, and I work for the municipality of Skellefteå. For those of you who don't know where Skellefteå is, I figured I'd give you a little tour. So I'll have some images while I talk. Skellefteå is a quite geographically large municipality in the northern parts of Sweden. We don't have polar bears, but we do have a lot of mooses and elks. But we also have a lot of seniors. Our seniors are getting older and older, and they're increasing by the numbers as well. And they live in quite rural areas. However, in Sweden, they are quite digitalized. Most households in Skellefteå have stable broadband, they have Wi-Fi. And our seniors are quite tech savvy. They're using iPads, tablets, smartphones. So we had to sort of teach them a little different than some of the other participants. You can take the next slide, Gillian. For us, it was a given to step into the Play CE program as a way to introduce seniors to new technology. So we had our students teach the seniors a lot about virtual reality, for instance. You can see in the middle image here is a woman. She's on a roller coaster ride and using virtual reality. We had a bunch of seniors that were traveling using Google Earth and those kind of things. But the students also helped the seniors with problems they might have with their tablets or their smartphones as well. But it was also important for us to sort of honor the seniors' heritage And we had a great luck being able to work with Umeå University as they were constructing the cultural archive. So we actually had a specific workshop where the seniors got to teach the students what it was like to grow up with less technology and show them items that might have been replaced with technology today. You can take the next slide, Jillian. So moving forward, what we've learned from Place EE is that our seniors, they want to be a part of technology and they want to be a part of the development that we do. So we will absolutely try to include them even more in the projects that we have using technology. And we have a bunch of projects right now using IoT, Internet of Things. We have a lot of welfare technology programs. We also have a lot with the virtual reality. We were testing using virtual reality at our retirement homes and things like that. So we definitely want to include these seniors even more because their opinion was very, very valuable on the development parts that we're doing right now. So that was it for us. If you have any questions, please leave it in the chat section.
Okay, thank you very much, Maria. I know when I joined the project, one of the amazing things was to think that your seniors were using virtual reality and finding such wonderful things to do. And I know many of the participants in other regions look forward to building up to that level of activity if we can continue the project and the work going forward. So thank you very much.
Great fun to see them using it, and it wasn't hard for them at all, but they were quite amazed by what you can do in virtual reality today.
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to unpin you now and move to our next speaker. Who is, sorry, just a second, who is Vicki Titterington. Vicki works with Linking Generations Northern Ireland, and Linking Generations were very involved in the project going forward as we went through the work, helping us design the intergenerational workshops. So Vicki's going to talk a little bit about what happened in the project and now how that intergenerational work can continue when we find ourselves in the COVID environment. Welcome, Vicki.
Hi, thanks everybody for joining today. And as Jillian says, my name's Vicki and I work for Linking Generations Northern Ireland. So I have a few slides just to talk through, which I think Jillian's going to share. And I'll go through them quite quickly. Okay, Jillian, so if you just go on to the next one, actually, because as Jillian said, we had supported the PSE project just because of our role as an organisation in Northern Ireland is we focus specifically on the promotion and development of intergenerational work as a catalyst for social change or to address social issues. So that's kind of our main role, and it made sense for us to link with this project as part of it was taking place in Northern Ireland. And just to give an introduction about our organisation, our vision is for Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is a place where all generations are respected, understood, connected and engaged together in their communities. And to achieve this, Linking Generations would provide opportunities to bring generations together in lots of places and for lots of different reasons. So this project linked directly with what we want to achieve as an organisation, and we are a very small team. We're 6 people, so the more that we can sort of bolt on or add value to projects and things that are already happening, the better. And I suppose to say with intergenerational work, we see it very much as starting to tap the resources and assets that generations have to offer one another. So we really were interested and keen to be involved in this project. So suppose, Jillian, you go on to the next slide. So Place EE, what was our role in the project? You'll see this picture here is of my colleague Lynn. I'm actually just back from maternity, so Lynn was more involved in the project than myself, but our role at the beginning was to start to develop an educational toolkit and a PowerPoint, which was to support the intergenerational exchange with a focus on digital technology. Now, Linking Generations we have experience in this work, and we had created this kind of toolkit before. So it was very much about sharing our experience and kind of focusing it around the Place EE project. And the toolkit and the PowerPoint was about intergenerational relationships, but also then looking at how we can utilize digital technology as the activity. So, you know, what we're taking is an intergenerational approach to improving the digital literacy of adults, but the added value of that then was the relationships. So we went into, during this year, we went in to deliver sessions with primary school children that were identified by the partner, which was Fermanagh and Omagh Council. And we used a toolkit and we used a presentation, and it was really using the session to discuss like ageing, images and stereotypes that younger people might have of older people, trying to talk to them and discuss around sort of what digital exclusion issues older people might face in Northern Ireland, but then also talking about how we could support that and how intergenerational work could build on the assets that young people have to support older people, but also what assets older people have in their communities. And it was very much a kind of hands-on session where people were getting the children to draw out their images of older people and getting them to discuss what older people meant in their lives and the contribution and all those kind of things. So another part then of our role was basically just to share our experience from our Digital Age project. We would have had a toolkit which we used. It was more around instructions, and it really added value, I think, us bringing our work together with the work of the PLACE project. And we would have delivered one-to-one training with older people in schools through our Digital Age and Connect IT projects. But actually what this project's identified is there's a continued role needed for digital exclusion work. And I think with COVID hitting, we thought that digital exclusion work had kind of, you know, we'd done a lot of it over the years. Our project was 4 years long, but the gap is massive. There are people who aren't online, and it is a massive problem, especially in Northern Ireland and in rural areas. So another part was then to just promote the PLACE project to our networks. I'll tell you a wee bit about them in a minute, and just to take part in meetings and events. So that was Lynn at an event promoting our involvement and support during the project. So then you can move on to the next slide. So really, I just wanted to put this slide up to show you some of the real kids that took part in the project. Now, I was off on maternity when these sessions took place, but these were with two primary schools, so it was Killyholman Primary School and Derry Gonolly. And the two groups were identified, as I said, by Fermanagh and Omagh Council, and Linkage Generations works very much as a catalyst organisation. So we specialise in the linkage work, we specialise in the preparation work between generations, but we very much support the likes of schools and other settings to do the work themselves. So it's about us providing the tools and us providing the support for people to then go on and deliver their own intergenerational work. Different organisations with that capacity so that they can continue to keep doing it. So we would like to think that now these schools have buffered relationships with older people in their areas, that this kind of work can then continue with more hands-off support. So if you want to move on to the next slide, Gillian. So this is just some practical photographs of the sessions that the kids took part in, and you'll see there the PLACE PowerPoint up on the screen, and the kids hearing about the project. And also then, I don't know if you can read in the middle photograph, they've been asked to create imaging of older people and their views on older people, but you can see here it says Gangsta Granny, which I think is quite funny. So the kids, and the idea is then they present their characters and we discuss the positives and the negatives, and we discuss what is correct and what's not. So yeah, I'm happy to move on, Gillian, because we're time limited as well. So intergenerational work during COVID, at the beginning, our organisation, we're trying to find our feet, very, very difficult. And what we're finding is that obviously the two groups that we're trying to keep apart from each other are the two groups that we're trying to buffer relationships between. So Linkage Generations came up with this activity pack. It is not digital at the minute, but the plan, it can be downloaded, but what I mean is there's no digital activity in it. But the idea is that hopefully we can start to use these as a tool to be able to connect people. You can go on and download this, and we started off with the old school stuff around notes of kindness. So basically sending postcards between family members, between older and younger people in settings. The family history one's quite good. It can be done over Zoom. It's about collecting information about your family, links in with the genealogy, but can be done over the phone as well, for people who aren't digitally included. rocks of kindness and pots of kindness are practically making arts things, and the connecting through reading it can be done over Zoom as well, and it's about kind of reading between grandparents and children. So we plan to be creating more resources as we get on, and we're working on a virtual dinners program at the minute, which is people having dinners over Zoom, because obviously we're trying to keep generations apart. So hopefully that will be something that we can talk about in the near future. So if you would like to go on and download that, I can share the link in the chat function as well. Please go on and download it. And we also have some hard copies coming up if anybody would like a hard copy. So the last slide basically was just, we have a network and it's a regional network, but we also have some international members on it. And what we're trying to do is share our ideas and share our resources through the COVID period and ongoing. So I have a link, and what I'll do is I'll put the link to sign up to the network in the chat function. And it was also to say that we have started the pen pal scheme. We want to move that on to a digital pen pal scheme. There's obviously safeguarding issues that we need to look at around that, but we are working on those kind of things. So I'll try and share as much in the chat function, but what I would say as well is the resources, we're having a specific positive aging month Zoom on the resources on Tuesday, on the 7th, and I'll also share it in the chat function. But we do have these Zoom network meetings, and we do get our network members to share on Zoom what they're doing as well. So I think signing up to the network would be good, and we can build from there. So look at the chat function and I'll share as much as I can. Thanks for listening.
Okay, thanks so much, Vicki. And it's interesting that you mentioned that your work has reminded you of the gap between people who are digital natives and the people who are not so confident with using technology and so on. And I think we issued a podcast last week which was looking at that, specifically looking at technology, older people, and particularly in relation to e-health and accessing health services. So I do think there still is a gap, without a doubt. Many people have made tremendous strides, but there are other people who are yet to begin that journey. So thank you for sharing with us the work that's ongoing, and certainly put your links in the chat, and hopefully we'll see many more people joining up to the activities that you're doing. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, everybody. So we're now moving to our second guest speaker, who is Lynsey Gillespie. And let me find Lynsey. Oh, there we are. So if I can pin Lynsey, that's good. Hi, Lynsey, can you hear me?
Hi, Gillian. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Just about. The sound is not high levels. I hope everybody else can hear you.
Have to turn their volume up a bit. I'm quite low.
Okay. Okay, I know you've sent me a PowerPoint as well. Lynsey is working with a very exciting project called Making the Future that she'll tell us a little bit about, which is associated with the Public Records Office of Northern Ireland. And part of the work has been involving older people in digital archiving. So we thought it would be really interesting to have a perspective from that project and that work, which really dovetails well with the work that we did in the Transnational Cultural Heritage Archives. You're very welcome, Lynsey. Thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to your talk. And you can tell me when you want to share the PowerPoint.
Yeah, you can just go ahead and share it now. So thanks everyone. Yeah, so my name is Lynsey Gillespie and I work here. I'm sitting in it right now in the Public Record Office of Northern Ireland, and we have been partnered for the last 2 years on a project called Making the Future. So I'm going to take you through Making the Future and just what it is, kind of lay it out for you before I go any further. So if you just go to the next slide, please, Gillian. Making the Future is firstly a Peace 4 funded project. So we have got about 1.82 million euro of EU funding under the Peace 4 programme. The Making the Future project is led by a creative learning centre called the Nerve Centre, which is based in Derry and also has offices in Belfast. And what they have done is bring together institutions that hold the building blocks of our past. So PRONI as the official archive for Northern Ireland, National Museums Northern Ireland, and the Linnell Library as Belfast's oldest library and archive collection. And we've all come together to bring people from different communities, different backgrounds, different genders and ages together to take a look at our past, everything that we know about it from our collections, to look at where we are now and where we want to go for the future. So that's really what we've been doing, and certainly for us here in PRONI, it was a great opportunity to do a lot of community engagement work. So if you just want to go to the next slide as well, Gillian. So the Making the Future project, as I said, has got 4 partners, and it has got 9 different strands or themes of work, and you can see them all there on the screen. But the one that I'm going to talk about, and the one that we have focused on in PRONI for the last 2 years, is women in the archives. So if we want to go to the next slide as well, please, Gillian. So Women in the Archives had sort of 3 main things that we were going to be doing. We put together some exhibitions here in PRONI and in the Lynnhall Library as well, as we were partnered with them on this particular strand. We were going to run an events program, which we did throughout 2019. Lots of different events here in PRONI, in the Lynnhall Library, out and about. But the core, the heart of everything that we do is community engagement. So we really wanted to build really good, sort of innovative community engagement programs through this, using what we have in our collections, but also building archives for the future. So if you want to move to the next slide there, please, Gillian. So this is just a general overview of Women in the Archives sort of so far. We're almost coming to the end of it now. You can see on the map just all of the different places in Northern Ireland that we travelled to. A lot of this is pre-COVID, before we were all locked down. Myself and my colleague Laura were on the road all the time, trying to reach out to as many different people as possible. PRONI is obviously located here in Belfast, but we wanted to reach out as far as we could across Northern Ireland and its border counties. And we have done 27 programmes so far, and they varied. Before COVID, they varied in how we did them. Sometimes we worked with groups every day for a week. Sometimes we did it 1 day a week over 7 weeks or 10 weeks. The results of variety in how we did it. We've had over 400 participants come through all of our community engagement programs so far, and all of them engaged with us for a minimum of 26 hours. So that's how many hours that we spend with the group, working with them on something in particular. And the one that's most important for this is our age range. So our youngest participant has been 8 and our oldest participant has been 93. So we have a really varied age range in the people that we're working with. Because we've been working on Women in the Archives, we have been very heavily involved with women. It's very difficult for some reason to get men to sign up to programs if it says Women in the Archives across the top. For some reason, men think that women's history isn't for them. So we've had a lot of women in the adult range, but when we get to kids, we actually find it's a little bit more 50-50, still slightly more girls, but we do find we get boys in more. So that's given us some hope for the future, maybe that the boys are going to be more interested in women's history. And as it's Peace Corps funded, so everything that we do is cross community, but it's not just about a diverse backgrounds, it's about everything else. We want diversity in gender, we want diversity in age, we want diversity in everything that we're doing. We want to bring people together and have them learn from each other. So if you want to go over to the next slide then, please, Gillian. So I'm just going to tell you about 2 specific ones that are most relevant to what we're talking about here today, programs that we ran. We ran a program that was called Changing the Narrative in South Armagh, and it was a filmmaking program. It had about 35 participants, and we started off with a very ambitious aim to make 5 short films about women's lives and history in South Armagh. There was a lot of different groups in South Armagh that came to us, sort of all saying the same thing, that they didn't like how people viewed South Armagh, how it had been viewed in history, and that there was a lot of good stuff going on there, and they wanted to showcase that, and they wanted to change the narrative of the area. And what we ended up with was some really great intergenerational projects, because 2 of the films that we looked at, 2 of the short films that we made, one was about farming life and the other one was about lace making, and both of them involved multiple generations of the same family talking about their experiences of farming life in South Armagh, or passing down the skill of the lace making. And through the program, we were trying to teach filmmaking skills, and all of the filmmaking was just done using phones and iPads. We didn't use anything like super fancy, but we wanted people to know that they could do this with reasonably simple technology, and that was part of it. So part of it was that they filmed it themselves. We helped them, we supervised. My colleague Laura did all the editing at the end, because that is the really, really hard part. But we wanted to impart some digital skills into this program. And obviously when they were working intergenerationally, it was even better, because sometimes somebody's grandchild would obviously pick it up a lot quicker than they would, and then they would be talking each other through it. So changing the narrative was really great for us, and what we've ended up with is a lovely archive of short films about South Armagh, but in particular with the farming and the lace making. They're really intergenerational. You get those multiple generations from the same family having conversations and putting it down in the record. So that was a really important one for us. And if you go to the next slide as well then, please, Gillian. Another one that we did then, which we ended up calling Belfast Then by Women Now, was done with a group of ladies from the Vine Centre in North Belfast. We had about 25 participants, and they were all aged over 70, and that is where we found our eldest participant at the age of 93. And we sort of always do a bit of a mashup when we're working with older people, where we use the traditional things that they might expect to see from an archive, might know is in an archive, and then we try to push the boundaries a little bit about what else an archive actually means now and what we need them to leave behind for the future, which is a lot of digital stuff that we create now. So we did lots of different things with them. We brought them to PRONI and we showed them again the two different types of archives that we have now here in PRONI. We obviously have all of the traditional paper archives, but we also have a lot of digital archives as well, and we wanted them to engage with it. And we brought speakers in, and we were looking at mills history, so the history of mills in their area and mills as their workplaces. And we brought in a great guy. He was really young. I thought they were going to eat him alive, to be honest, when I brought him into the room. But he had mapped mills in Northern Ireland, and he'd mapped them all around near where they lived. And a lot of them were able to correct him on the exact placement of his map and the mills that they knew where they had been in North Belfast. They were able to kind of challenge him, and we got the iPads out to get them to kind of look at the maps themselves and see how he had mapped the mill history in Northern Ireland. And in the end, we ended up with sort of two outputs, one kind of traditional paper-based archive and another one. So we got them all to scrapbook. You can kind of see it in the pictures there. They were cutting and pasting and writing and doing, and they really, really loved that. But we also created, we interviewed them, and we created some podcasts. We did create a digital story map of their own history, and we put it all onto a webpage. That is the link of the webpage there, but I will put it into the chat as well if you want to have a look at it. It's really, really lovely. It's all of their stories, all of their content kind of brought to life. And again, it's something that we will be able to archive here in PRONI into our web archive. So it's really that we get them thinking about contributing to archiving and building archives, paper and digital as well. So if you want to move on to the final slide then, please, Gillian. The last thing I'm going to speak about then is what we did once COVID hit. Obviously, we did a lot of work. It was in place with people in their community centres and in their homes. Once COVID hit, we obviously had to change how we were doing everything, and we were left with only a digital way to engage. And the first programme that we ran, which we started at the height of the lockdown, was called Ordinary People, Extraordinary Times. And we were really keen that it would be intergenerational. We were very aware that there were a lot of older people out there who might feel even more isolated whenever all they could use was digital technology to communicate. We asked people to sign up to us, and we did, again, a bit of a digital and a paper mashup to make sure that we were hitting everybody as much as we could and keeping everybody in contact. We sent out packs for families to fill things in, and we were encouraging people, if they had older relatives that weren't comfortable, didn't know how to use them, didn't want to, that they could write them letters, that they could ring them up and ask them questions about their family history, ask them for a family recipe that they could share with us. But my colleague Laura also did. We got a lot of people signing up who were older people that lived alone and really wanted to take part. And my colleague Laura, who has the patience of a saint, did a lot of phone calls, sort of coaching people how to get onto Zoom and also how to get onto an online messaging board that we were using called Slack. And that was where we would get everybody to chat to each other and kind of upload things and share with one another. And we talked a lot of people through that, and we were really genuinely surprised at how many older people we got engaging on that medium throughout the lockdown, who lived alone and didn't have someone else to show them how to do it, but they really wanted to do it themselves. And with a couple of phone calls, we were able to get them on board and online, and they were chatting on Slack and maybe uploading a photograph or uploading a picture of something that they'd made in the house that week. So it was a real success for us as well. And as we move forward, we're sort of stuck at the minute with digital engagement only. So we're constantly seeing that we have to sort of give those skills out so that we don't lose the older generation, because we want everybody to be involved in this project of all ages and all backgrounds. So that's really just a very quick snapshot about what we're doing. I will put our Making the Future website into the chat as well, and you can take a look around at everything that we have done so far. It's been a busy 2 years, but thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Lynsey. I mean, I knew a little bit about your project, but fascinating to hear the detail of some of the work that's gone on and the range of activities that you've been involved in. And I think going forward, one of the things we'll all be thinking about is how we do more of this work and how do we preserve it into the longer term as well. So thank you so much indeed for sharing that with us. And we're going to invite Roger O'Sullivan from the Institute of Public Health in Ireland to make some closing comments. As I said in the opening, Roger has been involved with this project from the beginning and has been extremely supportive of the work that's going on and has attended many of our events. So he has a very good overview of the work that's gone on. And I'll just try to get him unmuted and so on now. Okay, Roger, you're very welcome, and thank you so much for yet again taking part in one of our events and joining us.
Okay, oh, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been a really great conversation this afternoon, and I've been reflecting and thinking about what's been said. But before that, I just want to say this has been a great project to be involved in. It's great working across different countries and the learning. But what I've heard today strikes a chord about this project, in that our lives are really shaped by our context, whether it's rural, whether it's issues of the transport, the infrastructure. It was just touched on the issue of, do you have good broadband or not? The culture and quality of life is shaped so much by the social issues, our opportunities, our fears, our barriers. And today, COVID as part of our conversation, something that wasn't really thought about whenever this project was starting off. I have 3 observations from what I've heard today and actually over the life of the project. The first one is in the context of interventions, the intervention of ICT. And what strikes me about this project is it's been very successful at using ICT, but not describing it and using the term technology, but wrapping it in a way that people feel it's relevant to them. History projects, family history projects, cultural projects, cultural heritage, dancing, cooking, sport, history. Of course, Maria talked about using Google and Google Maps, but that was about stretching, not the technology itself, but it's about using that as a way of hooking people in. And what we know about interventions in terms of what works with who and what doesn't work is it must connect with the people that you want to influence. So our first speaker today talked about family history. And that was the connection that made her want to be part of the project. Our second speaker talked about cooking. Again, that was the connection. Mary, a very keen sports person, from anybody who connects with Mary, is she will tell the story of why sport matters to her. And once you talk to Mary, you're enthused about sport as well. So that's those interventions. But if we take a lesson for any intervention, we must start where the person is at. We must understand what is it that works for them, rather than us trying to say, this is what matters to you. The second part that I heard today, and it links to the first part, is that relationships matter. In the context of COVID, we've really learned that relationships matter. In our family, in our community, in our places of work. In this project, what I've heard is that relationships matter across ages, across countries, because we've heard about Sweden, Finland, Northern Ireland, and the Republic of Ireland, and across sectors, academic, community, and government. What the PLACE project gave was it gave space for those relationships to develop and be tested and to be explored. It allowed avenues for trust to be built, Vicki touched on a very important thing in her presentation, kindness. You know, kindness doesn't cost much, but it's something that we can all get a lot from. And in fact, Lynsey in her presentation talked about the women in South Armagh, about the respect, the issue about the portrayal and representation. So that really came out that relationships matter. The third part that I'm struck on, and this is something that those people who are involved in PlaceCE must be very happy about, is sustainability. Because what this project did was to plant the seeds for life beyond this project, challenging stereotypes. Faith Gibson from the Ulster University always gave a fantastic example about how to challenge stereotypes when she taught undergraduate students in social work. She asked 3 questions. What's your perception of older people? And it was often quite negative. What's your experience of older people? It was much more positive. And the last question was, what type of older person will you be? And it was the most positive. So if you think about the intergenerational part in all the projects, whether it was in cooking or the technology, it was about challenging stereotypes that move beyond the lifetime of this project. People have now skills because the skills are relevant to them. The example I think in my own life is my mother-in-law in her 80s learned to use Zoom because she had a child in Australia, and Zoom was so easy to connect. During COVID, my mother learned to use FaceTime so she could watch Mass on a Sunday. So skills are sometimes by opportunity and sometimes they're forced. So, but this was a really brilliant thing with this project. I get the feeling that we also in this project had the opportunity to develop skills beyond the lifetime of, develop relationships beyond the lifetime of this project. Connecting IC3 through family, through cooking, through online reading, all very exciting. And the message that Lynsey touched on was planning for the future. You know, what's the future? My last 2 really comments is that in the era that we now live in, we have to recognize that technology will not decrease in its importance. If anything, it will increase more and more. And if we want to improve the lives of older people and younger people and people of all ages in this context, you have the opportunity to offer help and ask for help. And I think that's a real message that came through in the PlaceCE program. So just finally, Jerry and colleagues, thank you for such an excellent program throughout the life of the program and the event today. You must be very proud and excited of what you have achieved. So thank you, Gillian.
Thank you very much indeed, Roger. And as someone who's come late to the project, it has been a fantastic project to be involved with. And as you say, the relationships both within the demonstrator areas and across the 4 regions of Europe taking part have been really important. So I'm going to hand now over to Jerry, who will just do our final thanks. And in the chat box, we have posted links to the various ways you can find out more about our project. And you can, of course, email us directly if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions. But now to the project director, Jerry Levy, to just close the webinar and thank all our speakers, etc. Okay, Jerry?
I think I'm unmuted, aren't I?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's late on a Friday afternoon, and I'm sure you're all dying to get back to your glasses of Merlot or gin and tonic or whatever else you do on a Friday afternoon or evening. It's an interesting one because, you know, I've been an academic and a researcher for probably older than Methuselah's spots. But you know, it's one of those jobs where you actually don't get an awful lot of instant gratification. In fact, you should never really expect it at all. You might be lucky if someone comes to you 10 years after you've written a paper and said, that was a really interesting paper you wrote all those years ago. But with Place EE, I mean, it's one of the most amazing and humbling projects I've ever been involved with. And it does give you a sense of gratification, which I haven't really experienced before. Over the past couple of years since we've been meeting with the various partners and the people, the older people and the younger people involved with it, and hearing their testimonies and how they've been involved in the project. I have to confess, there were times I found myself welling up because of how they spoke about each other and about being involved in the project. And again, that's something you really just don't get as an academic. And so, you know, as I head towards my own end of career, it's really amazing to have been part of that. So I'm just going to say thank you to all of the people who've been involved with Place EE. And I want to thank our panelists today, Mar and Mary and Lilah and Vicki and Lynsey and Maria and Roger for the amazing contribution to the webinar today. And thank you also to Gillian for having the guts, if not the folly, to try and put all this together, because I certainly couldn't have done it. But I also want lastly then to thank also, I don't know whether any of our colleagues from the NPA are here today, but I want to thank them for all the amazing support and the generosity, in fact, of allowing us to run Place EE. And then finally, our work now really isn't completed because it is about that big issue about sustainability in what we do over the next while. We have the comfort of the archive being hosted by Ulster University, but there is an issue about sustainability and, in fact, how can I say, proselytizing about intergenerational programs and bringing the good word to other areas like Saskatchewan and Idaho. So anyway, with that, God bless and good night.
Okay, thank you all very much indeed. I'm just going to formally end the session and thank you all for attending. Bye.